Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrand. Joining me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and co-host of many years. His name is Dan Rubenstein, back again on the right coast in New York City. Sir, how are you?
I totally disagree with that assessment of the coast. Otherwise, I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. I had a terrific rivalry, hate week, whatever, 4-day span, 3-day span of games. It was a good culmination to I'd say up and down, but mostly very fun regular season.
A, more importantly, how was your crispy Chinese turkey?
Oh,
and
B, Ty.
B, how did the ping pong training go?
It went sufficiently well, although I don't think I was pushed that hard in terms of competition. I only played my uncle and one of my brothers, so I really don't have a good gauge for our matchup coming up.
So would you say it was like playing Mercer, or how would you categorize it?
I would say low Power 5. Like, it doesn't really give you a true sense of where you're at. I don't know who would be
like Indiana?
Like an Indiana.
Okay.
Like a... I'm trying to think. It was sort of like I wouldn't say Syracuse, because Syracuse had a pretty big flash this year. Maybe like a North Carolina. Something like that. You're still pushed, but not really.
I got a little training under my belt as well.
And how'd you do?
Still trying to work through some of the cobwebs, but
some kinks?
Some kinks in the game.
This is true. We should. I'm fingers crossed, have an announcement this coming week, for the live show and the live ping pong masterful exhibition.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you for joining us here on the Solid Verbal. Week 13, or rivalry week, or hate week, whatever you want to call it, is now in the books. We had some movement at the top of the college football playoff rankings, which we will discuss. A very active week, not only on the actual field with games going on, but also now off the field, as many teams have concluded their regular seasons. We've got coaching hirings and firings that we'll discuss as we go through all of the action that transpired on Thursday and Friday and Saturday here. A lot to discuss, from Chip Kelly being hired at UCLA, which was a big one, to new firings that are breaking just as we're coming on the air, with Todd Graham and Brett Bielema yesterday on the field, and Mike Riley and maybe Kevin Sumlin. In addition to the fact that places like Florida and Tennessee and Ole Miss and Oregon State, all these places still need college football coaches for 2018. We're going to talk about all that as we see fit here. But before we get into all that, let's start where we always do. We've got a really good batch of Week 13 reverbs put together by our boy Taylor. Have a listen.
Pitt! Mayhem on the Monongahela, y'all!
Hi, this is John in Virginia.
This is Keith calling from Charlotte, first-year verballer and caller.
Hey, this is Bill from Atlanta.
Hey guys, this is Alex calling from Shanghai, the Clemson Tiger capital of Asia.
It's been a rough few years to be an Ole Miss fan. I've dealt with hookers, porn stars, long gas masks, high school fights, and of course the impending doom of the NCAA sanctions. It always feels a little bit better whenever you beat State. Hotty toddy.
Owen Schmidt feels your pain, Miami.
Does Miami have a Pittsburgh problem? No doubt about it.
Just watching this Mizzou-Arkansas game, I'm trying to figure out how they let Drew Lock cross state lines with that howitzer that's attached to his right shoulder.
The Bears went home crying. I don't know if they were crying, but we beat them up. So, woohoo! Go Frogs!
I should have known there was nothing good waiting for us in Orlando if Adam and me couldn't even find anything for the voicemail of the week.
Dan, Ty, tell me again about how this is UVA's year and Virginia is so good. It wasn't pretty, but that's 14 straight, by the way. Go Hokies.
So I'd just like to take this opportunity to apologize to you guys on behalf of Virginia fans everywhere for our incompetent offensive coordinator who decided to run the ball down 10 with 2 minutes left at their own 20. Yeah, that's really going to work.
Florida State in Florida is like like the car whose wheels keep falling off again and again and again and again.
In the Jim Harbaugh era, what would you say is your favorite moral victory?
Hey, this is David in Ann Arbor. Do you guys know of an offensive system that doesn't require a quarterback? Asking for a friend.
Before you come down too hard on John O'Corn, remember, Jordan Fuller is actually half barn door.
So after the Dwayne train, Dwayne Haskins rolled through Ann Arbor today, I think you've got to ask, is the backup better than the starter? Go Bucks.
Thank you so much for not talking about the Louisville versus Kentucky game this week. We seem to do so much better when you don't talk about our game, so thanks for that.
As a longtime Vanderbilt fan, I'm hoping Brady Hoke has done enough to remove the interim tag from his title and become the next head coach at Tennessee. Anchor down.
I'm halfway through the Iron Bowl, and the only thing I can hear in my head is Ty singing about Kerryon Johnson.
Forget about the altar, Ty. Forget about the altar, Dan. I'm worshiping at the altar of Jared. Get him.
And we're going to the SEC title, and Gus Malzahn proved everybody wrong. And a big War Eagle to you guys. Bama goes down in Auburn. The streak is over. Auburn and Bama are back on equal terms. War Damn Eagle.
Just watched my lovely Crimson Tide lose to Auburn. That was rough. I'm going to go eat a whole pizza and then jump in the ocean.
So this is my third time calling the Reverb line because I keep messing the message up about the same amount of times that Alabama messed up their opportunities to score in the fourth quarter. That loss hurts.
Arizona State is better than Arizona State. Go Devils.
With Alabama and Miami both going down, we'll get valuable insight into the mysterious workings of the playoff committee when the rankings come out and Wisconsin is still at number 5.
And we just got done watching Minnesota get...
So after firing their head coach on Saturday, Nebraska is now currently paying Bo Pelini, Sean Eichhorst, and Mike Riley not to be at Nebraska anymore. I take it your school doesn't excel in economics.
Just watched Baker Wild Thing Mayfield put some spit on his eliminator pitch and further secure his Heisman Trophy. Boomer Sooner.
Stanford 38, Notre Dame 20. Bring on the Trojans!
One of the more annoying things in the world is hearing your family members tell you exactly how every single game can help Notre Dame make the playoffs.
Calling to see if we can pull up some audio from maybe 4 weeks ago. Ty saying that he was more worried about Wake Forest than Stanford.
And I just want to say go Ducks for that massive record-setting Civil War victory.
I'm just wondering, if Washington's schedule is so full of cupcakes, what does that make Wazoo? You throw them right out, baby, right out. Take those records, baby, throw them right out.
Alrighty, Dan, there you go. Our Week 13 reverbs. A little bit longer this week, but a really good batch of calls, and Taylor didn't want to leave too many of them out, so he did his best to whittle it down. 408-VERBAL-1. Again, 408-VERBAL-1 is the phone number. If you want to call in, text in, let us know what is on your mind.
We cannot stress enough. This show is not live. So something crazy might happen with a coaching hiring or firing while you're listening to this show, and you might be thinking to yourself, Dan and Ty are in my brain. Why aren't they see what's happening? Why aren't they seeing it? We're not live. So Kevin Sumlin may very well be officially fired. Apparently the writing is on the wall in College Station, and there's always a surprise or 3. So we're not live. We're recording this Sunday morning. So Ty, can we start with the Chip Kelly thing? Is that okay?
We can start with Chip Kelly. We got a lot of games to get through. We got a lot of playoff scenarios to get through. But just because I had Chip Kelly coaching rumors is one of my fantasy things, I believe him being hired at UCLA 5 years, $23 million is a pretty big deal and is significant on the West Coast.
It is significant in the West Coast. It is significant for a major city in America and one of their 2 headline college football programs in a power conference. Chip Kelly is back in the Pac-12. I guess he was mostly in the Pac-10, but the Pac-12 now. And it is super curious what he's going to do, who he's going to hire, what kind of scheme he's going to run, how he's going to recruit when all sorts of stories have come out and, the official sanctions that happened because of his lack thereof with recruiting prowess and shady dealings. So I think it's pretty enormous, and it makes UCLA a much bigger threat sight unseen than they've been perhaps ever in the modern era.
You talked on our previous shows about the architecture firm being used to design UCLA's new football facilities and just some of the other similarities that might be appealing to Charles Chip Kelly, looking for his next coaching stint. There were rumors that perhaps he had signed with the University of Florida.
Definitely met with them, yeah.
Lord knows the extent to which all of that stuff is true. What matters, though, is that the ink has now officially dried on Chip Kelly to UCLA. This will have pretty big ramifications in the Pac-12 South.
Yeah, and it's yet to be seen what happens with the now open ASU job and how that affects things. If a big name is to show up in the desert for still a good job in ASU, not great, not top tier, probably not even the second tier, but that's still a place that you can win pretty consistently. So that becomes sort of more interesting in that division, a pretty winnable division still. And yeah, I'm to me, it's the scheme and staff thing. It's because he is going to need to recruit at a very high level now with USC in the same town. So everybody, UCLA always needs to recruit well, but you have Stanford, you have Washington and Oregon all recruiting at a high level. And it's a big job. And I think if Chip Kelly views it as like, this is where he wants to be, this is where he wants to build, then he can do very, very, very good things. If he still has one eye elsewhere, like the NFL, which seemed to be the goal before, it becomes trickier.
Chip Kelly hired at UCLA. We've got some other stuff that we'll talk about in the coaching realm here as we go through all of the Week 13 action. Dan, at the risk of being overly simplistic, we sort of have 4 play-in games next week that just naturally, organically came about. We've got the ACC championship between Clemson and Miami. For all intents and purposes, the winner of that game is in.
I would say so.
The SEC championship now between Auburn, 2-loss Auburn, and the Georgia Bulldogs. For all intents and purposes, the winner of that game is in as well.
I think that's right, yes.
Then we've got the Big 12 championship, which is a little bit more uncertain. But only if TCU wins. If TCU wins, then things get weird. You'd have to presume if Oklahoma wins, they're also almost assuredly in the playoff, correct?
Yes. If Oklahoma wins, they're in 100%. If TCU wins 38-7, I still have some trouble, but then I think we can dive deeper and see where they do and where they don't deserve, what the case actually looks like top to bottom.
And then the real, true weirdness, I think, to follow as we get into conference championship week is the Big Ten championship. The winner of the Big Ten championship is definitely in, but only if it's Wisconsin. Wisconsin wins, they're undefeated. They're 13-0. They're going to the playoff.
Right.
If it's Ohio State, that's when things really get weird. To some degree, you'd have to look around and see what goes on elsewhere in college football. But if they do win that game, we could be in the throes of an interesting debate between the merits of a 2-loss conference championship Ohio State and a 1-loss Alabama team that will not be playing for the SEC title,
right,
and doesn't have that true quote-unquote signature win over a top 15 team.
Correct. Yeah, they're Alabama's best win as it stands now, as I look at the rankings, appears to be a team that lost to a Sun Belt team, an LSU.
That is correct.
Yes. So Mississippi State going down with a crazy, unfortunate game against Ole Miss because of the Nick Fitzgerald injury. Certainly, if Mississippi State has Fitzgerald, they probably play more consistently, and they certainly have a better shot to win that Ole Miss game. But really, Alabama's schedule this year, thanks Florida State, thank you so much, is not where it has been in previous years, because typically they can point to that non-conference neutral site game as another feather in their resume cap. And that's the sort of, yeah, you're right, that's the sort of dirty little secret about Alabama this year is they're not last year's Alabama. They're not the Alabama of recent years. If we're going to judge teams as existing in a one-year vacuum, this Alabama team is really good, but not infallible college football-wise. So
I think that's right.
I'm curious. In Ohio State, with I like teams that sort of managed to pull off a home and home against other top teams like Ohio State was able to do, even though they lose at home. There is a certain amount of credit that I give for playing that on a road field one year and a home field another year. So that to me is a little bit more impressive. And I know people are going to point to the Iowa thing as, a particularly ugly loss. But I think if you're going to look at losses, you got to look at wins. And Ohio State's got a couple of significant ones there as well. So I don't feel like I'm fully decided, but we can review it more at the end of the show.
We can review it more at the end of the show and maybe talk each other through it.
Yeah.
I really do have a difficult personal dilemma when it comes down to Alabama against Ohio State. My gut is to go Alabama, which probably means it should be Ohio State. But again, let's get through all the action in Week 13. Yes. Before we do that, let's start on Black Friday, Dan.
Please.
Black Friday. Before thousands of rowdy fans dressed as yellow seats.
Oh.
It happened. The mayhem on the Monongahela, the Floyd of Rose Dave, the battle for the Golden Wand Stash. It happened.
It did happen, Ty. You were there. We all made history together, but mostly you.
24-14. I'm yelling. Pitt with a huge, monumental upset at home over the previously undefeated, the number 2 ranked Miami Hurricanes. Yeah, this was a big one, Dan. Second year in a row where the Pitt Panthers have done some damage to the top 5. It took them longer than expected this year, but in the final game of the year, they do get the job done. I don't know what to say about this game. In a lot of these kind of upsets, you can point to a play, you can point to a penalty, an injury, something like that, and say, "Oh, that was the turning point." Miami just got beat. They got outright beat in this game. Malik Rozier, I think I saw something like 15 of 34-ish.
Yeah, he didn't complete 50% of his passes.
He got yanked at one point with like 10 minutes left. Pitt had more yards, more time of possession, more first downs, more third down conversions, fewer penalties. They held Miami to 45 rushing yards as a team, 31 of which came from Malik Rozier. Like, this was an all-out whooping at the hands of the Pitt Panthers, Dan.
It'd be unfair to say Pitt didn't have a specific detailed game plan because Kenny Pickett, who is the third string quarterback for Pitt, we did talk about third string quarterbacks last week. It'd be unfair to say they didn't come in with a sound game plan on offense because Pickett was efficient. They ran the ball reasonably well. They sort of incrementally moved down the field a couple times. But if they didn't prepare a ton, it was because Pat Narduzzi just sort of sat back and said, I guess just stack the box and see what happens. Because that's what they did. They forced Malik Rozier to beat them, and he aggressively did not.
He did not.
Throws. No. He missed throws. Travis Homer could never. I think his longest run was 4 yards. And it, what did you say on the Monongahela?
Mayhem on the Monongahela.
Mayhem on the Monongahela was, the game plan has always sort of been this against Miami with Mark Walton or Travis Homer, but it's easier said than done when the defense gives the offense so many opportunities. Pitt did not give the defense. I know they turned the ball over a couple times, but it's not like an overwhelming game for this Miami defense. So good for Pitt. The template once again now with Clemson, who is like mega super ultra Pitt. They're going to focus on the run and try to make Malik Rozier against the Clemson pass rush beat them as they couldn't do against Pitt. Great day for the Panthers.
24-14 in the battle for the Golden Wand Stash. I do like the Floyd of Rose Dave too, of course.
It makes me laugh, Ty.
You throw the records out in any rivalry, especially one that we invented. Okay, so that happened on Friday. Miami is still in the ACC championship game, and they will play the Clemson Tigers. Clemson had a rivalry of their own on Saturday evening, known as the Palmetto Bowl. They won that game 34-10 over in-state rival South Carolina. How much of this game did you watch?
Not a ton collectively. It was on a TV that was muted, so it was in my periphery, but less and less as, you know, it was 27-0 around the half. So it's tough to pay detailed attention at that point.
For about 8 minutes, I was thinking, hey, this could be a tight fight here.
Yeah.
This could really be a fight. And then Jake Bentley threw a pick 6 to Ryan Carter, and the boat race was on.
Yeah.
It was on. Clemson grabbed the lead. They gradually pulled away. They outgained South Carolina 469 to 207. 34-10 was your final score. Not much of a fight here from the Gamecocks. That, of course, sets up, again, your ACC title, your Dr. Pepper ACC title game between Miami and Clemson. That'll be next Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, Clemson was totally fine rushing the ball. The defense did more than enough to help out the offense. Kelly Bryant was pretty good, connected on some longer passes, some shorter passes turned into longer gains and points. Clemson, I still feel like Clemson's like showing like 73% of their hand.
Yeah, it's weird. Like they have an extra gear that they don't want anyone to know about.
And maybe it's because we're so used to Deshaun Watson that the deviation from incredible greatest player of all time for their program, it looks so much less, but I still feel like given the continuity of both players on offense and the offensive coaching staff, I feel like there's like that, what is it in the Fast and the Furious, like that nitrous,
the Nas, Dan,
the Nas, excuse me. Yeah, I feel like we've got some Clemson Nas on the way.
Clemson Nas, ACC championship game, perhaps on display. Should be a good game. Miami's a big game team. That was part of the reason that I worried about that Pitt matchup. It wasn't a big game through and through the way the Virginia Tech game was, the Notre Dame game was, the way that this Clemson game is going to be. So we'll see if they can rise to the occasion here. They win. Presumably they're still in the playoffs. All right.
Yes.
On to the SEC. Let's set up the SEC title game by talking a little bit about the Iron Bowl.
Okay.
Auburn 26, Alabama 14. This is a very, very fun football game to watch. Came a little bit off the swivel in the fourth quarter. Some weird stuff started to happen, whether it was injuries to Kerryon Johnson, whether it was weird snapping issues for Jalen Hurts. Fourth quarter, the Iron Bowl got a little bit weird. But all told, Auburn does win the football game by 12 at home. Kerryon Johnson, 30 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. 1 for 1 with one passing touchdown, Dan, if the boys in the truck could please. You going to sing with me?
No, absolutely.
Underdog and at home. Oh, you're in the red zone. Carry on. Come on, you can sing. May your path be the sound of his feet upon the ground. Carry on. There you go. One more time. Carry on, carry on. Do, 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 do.
Gary Danielson called it. He did call it. And everybody sees the Tony Romo stuff that he's calling plays before they happen, but that's a huge moment to call. My dad still reminds me of, Tim McCarver's not great, but he said before, I think it was Luis Gonzalez who had that bloop single against the Yankees in the World Series.
Sure.
Apparently Tim McCarver right before then was like, they're pitching him inside, look for like a weird bloop situation. And it happened. So good for Gary.
Gary needs to get a room with his Alabama love. To his credit, I don't think he's entirely wrong. Auburn is going on to the SEC title game by virtue of this win. We're going to have to watch to see if our boy Kerryon Johnson is able to play next week. It looks like he's going to be okay. He did suffer an undisclosed right shoulder injury. Just sort of went down, kind of looked scary there for a moment, but it does sound like he'll be okay. What were your takeaways from this football game on both the Auburn and Alabama sides? I have many thoughts on this football game.
I'm glad you asked. I I thought the Auburn game plan, especially offensively, was extraordinary. Jarrett Stidham was accurate, and they put him in position to succeed and execute consistently, whether it was rolling out and just hitting 7-yard hitches, whatever it was. Jarrett Stidham just seemed prepared and on it. I thought Kerryon Johnson was very good, even though he didn't, have any real burst runs and dominate the Alabama defensive line. He always seemed to be falling forward. A 1-yard gain turned into a 4-yard gain, and that's pretty significant against the Alabama defense, and at least putting your team into 3rd and 2s and stuff like that. I thought Ryan Davis was great. Obviously, that goes without saying. He had a terrific day. We made up the term, the BMS, the Beck-Meyer syndrome.
That's right.
About counting on your quarterback to do everything, both on the ground and through the air in big games. That's not limited to Texas and Ohio State, because for whatever reason, if it's Jalen Hurts keeping the ball, if it's Jalen Hurts trying to scramble when something's not there in the passing game, Jalen Hurts finished with, and I believe this includes sacks, 17 carries.
Yep.
Damian Harris, Bo Scarborough, and Josh Jacobs. All 3 of them.
18 carries, right?
Combined for 18.
Yeah.
And it seems to me when you can't stop, when you are addicted to getting commitments from blue chip running backs that are built like tanks and fly like motorcycles, which I guess don't fly, giving them the ball in big games, wear down a defense, a very good defense, but still they wear down defenses. It seems like the move. And I'm not a big proponent of just yelling, run the damn ball over and over again for no reason. But if you're going to run it, give it to running backs. And Jalen Hurts looked shaky through the air. Even when he was rolling out, and he wasn't always throwing it away when he should have been throwing it away. Just big game Jalen Hurts, to me, once again, left a lot to be desired.
Big game Jalen Hurts throwing off his back foot 40 yards into the end zone. You mean that play?
Yeah, I mean, they were so fortunate that worked.
Oh my God.
So fortunate that they didn't only score 7 points.
But still, he did make some big throws in that football game. He really is Jekyll and Hyde in a big game scenario. You just hope you get a little bit more Jekyll than Hyde. And obviously yesterday it didn't fully work out. It wasn't entirely his fault, to say the least, because Auburn, like you said, had a really good scheme. Back to Jarrett Stidham, if I could for a second. All your points are valid. He looked impressive. Auburn had a plan. I think back to Jarrett Stidham in week 2 against Clemson, and just how it looked like the game was moving too quickly for him. That is no longer the case with Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham, I think, has developed to a point that you can feel comfortable with him in a big game situation. It wasn't just that he was executing. He was very calm. There didn't seem to be any desperation back there like we saw back in week 2. He's just really come a long way. And that, to me, more than anything, really stood out in this football game. This is the biggest game of Jarrett Stidham's life. And he went 21 of 28, didn't turn the ball over, had some really big throws in the clutch. That, I think, above all else, really gives Auburn a good shot to win this SEC title game. It's tough to beat a team twice. I don't care who it is, but they are firing on all cylinders now going into that game against Georgia, which we'll talk about that matchup here momentarily. But I just feel really great about where they're at and how they've developed. They are the proverbial buzzsaw that we saw last year from Penn State, that we saw a couple years ago from Ohio State, that we saw last year, if we want to throw USC in the mix. That team that's on an incredible run that no one wants to play, that's the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue Clemson was also at that point.
Clemson, sure.
But the weird thing to me, if there was anything strange and unexpected in this game, it wasn't strange and unexpected that Alabama would lose to this Auburn team. The fact that Nick Saban, that coaching staff, this program, if nothing else, the term, the process, whatever, it's attention to detail. And to lose partially because of procedural lapses seemed crazy out of character for Alabama.
Big time. Okay.
Just strange.
They will meet the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia had the clean, old-fashioned hate rivalry game against Georgia Tech. They hammered Georgia Tech, Dan. Hammered them. 38-7 was your final score. Georgia Tech, listen to this one, held without a rushing touchdown for the first time since 2015. Yeah, Georgia had 247 yards on the ground, And look, you know the MO for the Georgia Bulldogs. They want to bash your brains in. They want to use Jake Fromm sparingly, but use him to provide some balance on offense. Again, he was very accurate, didn't shoot himself in the foot at all. And here's a fun stat for you as it relates to Georgia's rushing attack. The number one all-time rusher in Georgia football history is Herschel Walker, right? Everyone knows Herschel Walker.
That makes sense to me.
Number 2 and 3 on that list are, respectively, Nick Chubb and now Sony Michel. They're the number 2 and 3 rushers all-time for the Georgia Bulldogs, just to give you a sense of how good these running backs are, how good this rushing attack can be.
Totally fair. And Jake Fromm was super efficient in this game. He's a rhythm thrower, so I imagine he is only going to improve and get better and more dangerous as his career in Athens goes on. And not to belabor a point, Ty, but to go back to the Iron Bowl, I did forget to mention that there's only one altar that had Auburn outright.
Yeah, that's right.
Not to belabor the point. Georgia, what a fantastic season. Georgia's ahead of schedule. They're, winning the East, which is not the biggest thing in the world, but they dominated the East and they find themselves in the SEC championship game, which I assume they will be better on defense. There will be fewer overrunning of plays. And I have to also assume a week after playing Alabama, Auburn's defense might be a little body blow theory-ish, and Georgia should be able to connect on or generate some bigger plays. I still favor Auburn because I think their ceiling right now is the highest in college football.
I would tend to agree. Also, if I could, am I able to put in a waiver request to drop the PJ Fleck row the boat mentality from my Fantasy Things team and instead replace it with Jacob Easton transfer rumors?
That is pretty good, but no, you may not.
All right.
Especially after, and we'll get there dramatically, I suppose. Minnesota hasn't scored in 3 weeks. That boat it's taken on some water.
Taking on some water, dog. Okay. Your SEC title game will be next Saturday at 4 p.m. It'll be between Auburn and Georgia. It's a rematch, but it'll be a good one. It is on CBS. Before we go any further and talk about the Big Ten, Dan, finding a dress shirt that fits can be difficult.
True.
Something's always off. Thankfully, ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier thanks to our good friends over at Proper Cloth. Propercloth.com gives you everything you need to easily create a custom shirt in just seconds. You got to answer 10 easy questions. You can choose from over 20 collar styles, 10 cuffs, 500 fabrics, classic to business. Completely customize your shirt. Get it exactly the way you want it. The team over there at Proper Cloth, they work day and night to make sure that you're only getting the highest quality fabrics from producers around the world.
I'll admit it, Ty. I check myself out wearing a Proper Cloth shirt, and I look great.
Proper Cloth guarantees a perfect fit. If somehow your shirt arrives and it doesn't fit, they will remake it for free. Shirts are, again, completely custom for you. They start at just $80. Stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Start looking your best with a custom fitted shirt right now at propercloth.com/solid, SOLID. Enter the gift code SOLID and save $20 on your very first shirt.
Do it.
Propercloth.com/solid. Gift code is SOLID to save $20.
Hell of a deal.
Now, let's move on to the Big Ten and the way the Big Ten is shaping up. We had a big game known as the game.
Clean old-fashioned game.
Ohio State 31, Michigan 20. Good football game. Good football game for most of the way. Michigan wasn't able to get the job done, I think, due to some deficiencies at quarterback, but a good game here by Ohio State. Even got a little bit of a front door cover. A little bit of a front door cover at the end.
Was it a front door cover? I saw the line closed at like 12 and a half.
I saw it at 6.5. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it was a little deeper than that.
Close to a front door cover.
Close to a front door cover. You're not wrong about the John O'Corn factor. Certainly not who Michigan ideally would have liked, given injury situations, to be playing quarterback in this game. But they're up 14-0.
I know.
They're up 20-14. They dropped that big pick that would have probably changed some sort of trajectory of how they would have played. Donovan Peoples-Jones has it was a big punt return, I believe. to put them in position, which they took advantage of. But yeah, Ohio State down, bringing in, because they brought in Dwayne Haskins when they were down, right? The JT Barrett leaving the game thing happened.
We need to talk about this right now.
Okay, let's dive deep.
The real story of this game was JT Barrett getting injured on the sidelines, Dan.
Before the game.
Before the game, after getting bumped into by a cameraman.
Or cameraman, yes.
Urban Meyer promised a full investigation, Dan. I have visions of this being the lost third season to Serial.
Did you see the GIF I tweeted out about the investigation?
I did, yeah.
I was very excited by that. It's a good find. I'm glad somebody had GIFed the Kenny Rogers cameraman GIF.
If Jim Harbaugh is behind this, it would be Tanya Harding level devious.
Could you imagine having a corkboard and connecting yarn and pictures of like shady Zapruder footage of Harbaugh like winking at a cart operator?
Is that Jeff Gillooly? Yeah.
Yeah, JT Barrett got Gillooly'd. Very strange story, and hopefully it was an accident, because an accident is better than malicious intent to wound a college student before a football game.
Sure.
As important and as heated a rivalry it is, hopefully it also helps to clear things out on sidelines and prevents tons of people and media from being around the players before the game starts. Yeah, not a good situation. Hope JT Barrett is physically all right. The other story to me in this game, Dwayne Haskins looked real good.
Yeah, he came in second half.
Good long run.
Set up an all-time backup better than the starter moment.
6 of 7 for 94 yards, averaged 13 per attempt. Looks to be the quarterback of the future after JT Barrett, I assume, exhausts 3 more years of eligibility. And Ohio State puts themselves, I mean, they were already in, but in the Big Ten championship game, Michigan can only do so much on defense when the offense, some of the picks, or just that one bad pick at the end, just overthrowing somebody by like 9 yards that's not Big Ten level, or at least not high Big Ten level. And I think Ohio State is fine, but I don't love the secondary. I really don't love Ohio State's secondary. It was just too much turnover, too much attrition over a couple of years. It's hard to just keep putting out NFL talent there, and they're susceptible. Ohio State, to me, is not a no-brainer playoff caliber team. As well as they've played against lesser teams, I'd worry once again about this offense and the secondary against a top-flight team.
I did feel bad for John O'Korn. I really did. Because, he seems like a nice kid. He was pretty worked up after the game. You feel for him, but he will be going pro in something other than sports. I think
that's right.
I think we're kind of resigned to that conclusion.
Hope he has the long, healthy, happy life.
Absolutely, at this point. And Dwayne Haskins, you're right, quarterback of the future. I kept thinking about my last trip to the blackjack table when he came in, because from the moment he stepped foot on the field, it was like bringing in the new dealer. And all of a sudden, those 4s and 6s that the dealer's laying down for themselves turn into like 8 and 9s. Mm-hmm. Starts getting a little hairy. Start losing money, momentum shifts, and just like that, Ohio State rides the wave, 31-20. They are the victor in the game. Michigan finishes 8-4. Ohio State at 10-2, still a shot at the college football playoff. And as you mentioned, they will be playing in the Big Ten championship against Wisconsin. Wisconsin blanked Minnesota, who I didn't realize they hadn't scored in 3 weeks.
Yeah, they lost. They got shut out by Northwestern last week.
Great, 31-0. Was your score here. Minnesota held to 133 total yards, and they finished 5-7 in PJ Fleck's first year of that attacking row the boat mentality.
I have a song, not our usual song.
Do you want me to play it? I got the music.
Not this one.
No? Okay.
But it does start out with a piano trickle. I just didn't send it to you. I'm just going to go a cappella.
Yeah.
Minnesota. So that's Desperado.
Okay.
Minnesota. Punt, 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 4th down punt, and a punt and miss field goal, and then another punt. That's it.
That was rangy, Dan. So rangy.
Thank you very much. That was the entire Minnesota offensive day. It was brutal.
I caught a little falsetto in there, too.
I tried. A little quiver. Yeah. Vibrato.
Your Big Ten championship game will be Ohio State against Wisconsin next Saturday night. From Indianapolis at 8 p.m. Eastern. That one is on the Fox family of networks. Then we go to, where are we going to go next here? Let's go to the Big 12 championship and how things are setting up. It's interesting, and I saw our friend Dan Wetzel tweeted this out, and he couldn't be more right. It is the inaugural Big 12 championship game. There was so much hullabaloo over creating this Big 12 championship game, and it stands to reason that this game this year could hurt more than it could help. Because right now, without the championship game, Oklahoma is 100% in the playoff. Not even a doubt. If they lose TCU next week, to your point, I don't think TCU can make up enough ground unless they blow the doors off Oklahoma to get their way into that college football playoff, which could mean the Big 12 again on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I'm told Bob Bowlesby has scheduled a press conference to announce backsies.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that was just that was more of an idea we floated than a concrete thing we were planning on. So take backs. Yep, backsies.
Oklahoma 59, West Virginia 31. This one was pretty much over with about 13 minutes left in the second quarter. That's when they went up 21-3. Mm-hmm. West Virginia, you might remember, was without Will Grier, or Will Gruyere, if you prefer the French pronunciation.
Always.
And this was always going to be an uphill battle for Dana Holgorsen. It was 45-10 at half, which is a pretty steep hill, not going to lie. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Big game for Baker, big game for Rodney Anderson.
Well, did you see the beginning of the game, Ty? So Oklahoma comes out because there is no Baker Mayfield because of the crotch grab. So Oklahoma players, captains come out with Baker Mayfield's jersey because apparently, Ty, grabbing his crotch killed Baker Mayfield. So in memoriam, Oklahoma players came out with a jersey to honor him.
Right.
So we are going to honor, Baker Mayfield lived the way he died.
Yeah.
And that was
crotch grabbing
parts of his body. And good for the family, the Oklahoma football family.
For really classing it up, yeah. Is it a little Boys to Men?
It was, Boyz II Men and Mariah Carey, One Sweet Day. And
Sure.
That's what it was yesterday. We will remember you fondly, Baker Mayfield, and we are sorry that your crotch grab murdered you.
Okay.
Kyler Murray started the game with a 66-yard run. That is a flash of what's to come for Oklahoma moving forward. I believe they host UCLA next year. That'll be a Chip Kelly non-conference game for the Bruins, so they will have their hands full if Kyler Murray is as advertised.
59-31 was your final. Oklahoma finishes the regular season at 11-1. They've got that loss to Iowa State in Norman.
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia at 7-5. Not the 5-7 that I thought, but 7-5. Decent enough year for the Mountaineers. Oklahoma will be in the Big 12 championship next week. The game is at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, and it is a rematch against TCU. TCU, for their part, did win against Baylor. They won 45-22. And again, I reiterate that Baylor is far and away the best 1-11 team in college football.
Good. Big brawl in this game.
Big brawl. Yeah. By the way, I don't mean that sarcastically, because Baylor will push you. They pushed TCU for about 2.5 quarters before things got out of hand. But yeah, they've been playing hard.
Yeah, nice game. Very efficient and good and clean day for Kenny Hill. Excuse me, back to Ken Hill. Granted, it's Baylor, but still, very nice day for Kenny Hill. Shewo Alonalua had a very nice day with Darius Anderson on the bench, hurt and beat up, and we hope that he is able to recover. And I think it's Matt Boson. I think he was kicked off of Boise State a couple years ago, so he's transferred to TCU, and I think he had something like 5 sacks, so he was all over the place for the Horned Frogs. So a very nice day for TCU, as ultimately expected in the second half. So a great season for TCU regardless, going 10-2 and reaching the first new Big 12 championship game. Great.
You mentioned Ken Hill, the more mature 2.0 version of Kenny.
Yes.
He had a good game, a very clean game, 325, 3 touchdowns. He's going to need to have another game like that if TCU has any plans of knocking off Oklahoma, in addition to the fact that Gary Patterson needs to have a better plan for dealing with Rodney Anderson this time around, because he killed him a couple weeks ago in the first TCU-Oklahoma matchup.
Yes, absolutely.
Big 12 championship game again. Oklahoma against TCU next Saturday, 12:30 Eastern, also on the Fox family of networks. And then that brings us to the Pac-12, Dan.
It does indeed.
USC finally had a damn bye week.
Good for them.
Took them all year, had a chance to just watch this one on the couch. They were watching to see who they'd play next week in Levi's Stadium, an iconic college football venue, of course.
Oh, the worst.
Everything hinged on the Apple Cup, because if Wazoo won, Wazoo would be in that title game. Otherwise, if Washington were to win, then it would be Stanford. Well, Washington 41, Washington State 14. Only one member of the broadcasting duo, Dan, had the gumption to go Washington outright in this football game.
In all fairness, Washington State, in their enormous game against USC, did a good job getting the ball to Jamal Morrow. And granted, he had, I think, like 9 or 10 catches against Washington, but they did not run at all against this Washington team that has gotten healthier in the secondary and can rush the quarterback with 4 guys, which is exactly what they did against Washington State. And, you know, the Huskies were fantastic. I don't think Chris Peterson has lost to Mike Leach. So with good reason, Washington moves on, not to the Pac-12 championship game, but they'll go to like the Alamo Bowl or something. Myles Gaskin, a great underrated running back nationally. He goes for almost 200 yards. And Vita Vea is probably one of the 2 or 3 best interior defensive linemen in the country. He remains excellent. And it's too bad on a certain level that Washington couldn't be just a little bit better against Stanford.
I know.
But at the same time, they have, you know, Jake Browning has not been the same this season, and defensively they were beat up. So they are definitely New Year's 6 caliber. I will say that, but I could not see them succeeding in any sort of meaningful playoff way.
I tend to agree with you. I thought this was an impressive showing by Myles Gaskin, by this defense. The way they were able to move the football against a pretty good Wazoo defense that's actually been pretty good against the run was impressive to me. But you mentioned Myles Gaskin, close to 200 yards, had 4 touchdowns on the ground. Really big day, a good way for Chris Peterson to close out, I guess, kind of a disappointing season by winning the Apple Cup. That means that Stanford is going to be in the Pac-12 championship game. The final score of Stanford's game was 38-20 over a little team, an upstart program, really, from the Midwest by the name of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
The Fighting Irish, you may have heard of them before.
So it was 20-17 at the top of the 4th quarter. I assume everything was all right for Notre Dame? Everything work out?
I didn't take many notes on this game, Dan.
Okay. So just off the top of your head.
I watched this game in its totality, had a couple adult libations just to try and ease the pain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm frustrated. I'm very frustrated. Notre Dame has improved in many respects this season. They've improved on defense. I think we've seen some young defensive stars come out in the spotlight. They will be, no doubt, contributors moving forward. I'm excited about Notre Dame's defense. And on offense, for the majority of the season, Notre Dame was really able to assert its will on the ground. But they ran into issues when they faced better defenses that were able to take away that ground game, like Georgia, like Miami, and yesterday, like we saw against Stanford.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stanford has, 6 yards carry against USC, over 7 against UCLA, over 6 versus Oregon, 5.5 versus Cal. So Notre Dame surely could run all over them,
You would think, but apparently the book is out on Notre Dame. Stack the box. Kirk Herbstreit said it on the broadcast. They're just putting everybody in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Force Brandon Wimbush to beat you. And that is honestly the missing link between this team being what they are, 9-3, and maybe 11-1 and a true playoff contender. Brandon Wimbush did not give them enough in the passing game. And we've played footsies all year with, well, what is the real reason behind this? Remember, early on in the year, people are like, it's the play calling. It's the play calling. They're throwing too many screens and got to let them run. Got to let them throw.
Seemed like they put him in a pretty good position yesterday, right?
Even the passes he completed were off his back foot yesterday. This is not good enough. He has not gotten better at all. You can't play the inexperience card after 12 games as a starter.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. Or 11 games
11,
as a starter.
I was gonna say.
I guess he was hurt for the North Carolina game.
Buck.
But point being, there's been minimal progress with Brandon Wimbush as a passer, and that's concerning. I don't know what that means moving forward, but it's very frustrating to watch as a fan, week in, week out, the exact same thing. So maybe there's a quarterback controversy next year. Maybe they try to open the competition up and see what their other options are. I don't know. It did not feel at all to me throughout the course of this season like Brandon Wimbush got any better.
Counterpoint. You beat USC by 40.
Yeah, true.
Counterpoint. You beat Michigan State by 20. Yes, he needs to improve his accuracy, but also, yes, first-year starter, and I experienced first-year starter, but first-year starter, go from 4 wins to 9. Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
If I didn't give you any context before the season, 4 to 9, you'd be like, done, sold, taking it.
100%. 100%. And so I think as a whole, I'm bittersweet on the season. 9-3 from where they were a year ago, it's a 5-win improvement. There's no two ways about it. But to know that there's a lot more on the table and to just get the sense that Brian Kelly, Chip Long, whoever wasn't developing the talent the way you thought they could, that's what I think is the most frustrating.
Yeah. And I would also add, only had 2 picks, I think, through the Wake game. So didn't give it away too much before Miami and Stanford. But yeah, I don't think he completed 50% of his passes on the season. So that there's
it's
100% room for improvement.
In 11 of his starts, he's been 50% or worse 7 times. That's from our good friend Pete Sampson over at Irish Illustrated. Also, another point to note for the Brian Kelly haters out there, BK has now lost 9 straight games to ranked Power 5 opponents on the road.
That's a tough ask, though. That's still, not a lot of coaches have good records in that scenario.
0-9 is about the worst. Just saying.
It's true. Has Michigan beat a ranked team on the road since like 2006?
Oh, God, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Stanford wins by 18. KJ Costello had a really good game through 4 big touchdown passes. Stanford was able to capitalize on some costly second half turnovers. Really blew this one open in the second half. Pac-12 title game next week is going to be Stanford against USC in Santa Clara.
Ty, was it a mistake that I took a shot every single time Bryce Love's high ankle sprain was mentioned? Was that because I feel like my body is complete poison?
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some other action around the world of college football. We got to move quick here. But before we do, let's talk about Net 10 Wireless, Dan.
Let's
talk about always having access to the latest scores and highlights right on your smartphone. They give you a choice of flexible plans, great nationwide coverage. It's on one of America's largest and most dependable networks. There's never been a better time to switch right now to Net 10 Wireless because for a limited time, you can get double data for life on unlimited plans starting as low as just $35. $35. That means that you get unlimited talk, text, and the first 4 gigabytes of high-speed data, then 2G for just $35. You can bump it up to 20 gig high-speed data, then 2G for just $60. With Net 10 Wireless, you can pick the phone, pick the plan that fits your needs. And now you've got the added lifetime benefit of double data for life. It's a pretty good deal. Visit net10wireless.com. That's NET, the number 10, 10, wireless.com. net10wireless.com. If you want to look up the terms and restrictions, get more info on that double data for life deal. But yeah, Net 10 Wireless, it's a game changer.
Do it.
All right. Elsewhere in the SEC, we had Ole Miss on Thursday night, 31, Mississippi State 28. Nick Fitzgerald suffered a gruesome ankle injury in the first quarter. If you've never had a dislocation, it is not a fun injury. I've had 2, though never on TV and not nearly as gruesome. We do wish him well. Apparently he's had surgery, and it sounds like he could be back in time for spring camp. So that's a good deal.
Hope everything heals and he is in a good place physically and mentally.
Very quickly, what are the rumors for Ole Miss? Because they need a football coach.
I have no idea. Ole Miss could go, I suppose, in any number of directions. Certainly there is the feeling that it's a tricky job with what some people feel like could be some NCAA sanctions coming with the recruiting stuff and the Hugh Freeze stuff. But obviously, who knows what will happen there. It's just a tough job. It's in the SEC West. I imagine they're going to pay well, and the contract will probably be advantageous for somebody willing to take on that job. And they have a quarterback or quarterbacks of the future. And it's still a very good job because it's in the SEC West, but I don't have a specific name that I could say, well, that's who makes sense. Nope, I'm not going to pretend.
Mississippi State finishes 8-4, Ole Miss at 6-6. Elsewhere, LSU 45, A&M 21. Now, we talked about Kevin Sumlin at the top. There are reports that he will be dismissed as A&M football coach. That hasn't broken yet. Clearly, it will break and be formally announced after we hit stop on this podcast, as has been kind of the trend here on Sundays. But a big offensive night for LSU behind Danny Etling and Darius Geis, DJ Chark, 601 total yards. It's the most they've had in any game all season. I kept thinking a lot about the symmetry between the Notre Dame season and LSU, just from the standpoint of both being 9-3, and I think both fan bases having a little bit of a reason to feel disappointed. You know, given where they came from. On one hand, for LSU, there was a lot of coaching turmoil. Who's going to be coach?
Right.
On the Notre Dame side, obviously, coming off the 4-8 season, those situations were a little bit different. Both teams, I thought, had pretty good years, but 9-3 in both cases, now knowing what we know, feels a bit underwhelming, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, I mean, the Troy game aside, I think it was still, LSU beating Auburn, LSU finishing the season the way that they did. Danny Etling was totally good as a quarterback. He's probably, would you say he's the fourth best quarterback in the SEC? As a pure thrower. So that's the comparison I'll make against Jalen Hurts.
Okay. So
I would say Stidham, Fromm, and probably Drew Lock.
Yeah. Drew Lock, I think, is a bit of a dark horse there, but sure.
But from what Danny Etling, and certainly he struggled against the really good teams that LSU has played on their schedule these past couple seasons, but as an LSU quarterback, not only not screwing up against lesser talent, but thriving, that feels good, right?
I think, and at the same time, I totally get it if there are fans out there for LSU who feel like they left something on the table. Totally get it.
Yeah, they left the Troy game on the table.
Yeah, okay. 45-21, LSU finishes 9-3, A&M 7-5. We'll see what happens with Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah.
You mentioned Drew Lock. Big year for Drew Lock. 5 more touchdowns. He had 43 on the year. That ties him with Jake Browning last season, with Jared Goff back in 2015, and with Kellen Moore in 2011, the 23rd most of all time touchdown passes in one season. So he had a really big year, 448 yards against Arkansas, 48-45 was your final in this football game. And look, we're going to talk about Brett Bielema, but before we do, we need to talk about Barry Odom, keeping the season on the swivel. They started 1-5 at Mizzou, won their last 6 to get to a bowl. They're going to be a tough out against whichever team they play because the passing game is there. They're pretty good on the ground. He has really brought this team along in a good way.
He's the guy. Is that like, I'm the guy to turn this thing around. Drew Lock, really good. Ish Witter, really good. Their defense, not especially good. But you know what? They're competitive, they're winning, and they didn't fold after starting 1-5, losing to who they lose to, Purdue, and beating Florida and Tennessee. It's a good year to play Florida and Tennessee, but certainly for where Missouri was in September and early October, just an overwhelming success of a second half.
And then we get to Brett Bielema.
Yep.
Talked about it at the top of the show. The Arkansas brass decided it would be best to fire Brett Bielema as he was walking off the field, Dan.
Yeah.
A great show of class. Don't they know that that's going to show up on Glassdoor?
Ooh, good call.
He didn't disgrace the program. He tried his best. It didn't work out.
Well, obviously they're without an AD at the moment, and it's a decision made by many more people than the AD. There are boards and whatever. Strange, and the explanation once again was that it was to let him know as soon as possible after the game, so he could communicate it with the players who were leaving for the holidays, which I think is sort of garbage.
That's BS.
It's, man, just if you're going to fire him. And it's not like, and that sort of says like, well, if they beat Missouri, we're not going to fire him. Okay, so 5-7 leaves you with a much stronger taste in your mouth. No, come on. So I thought it could have been handled a lot more professionally.
Let's do it one more time.
Borderline erotic. Borderline erotic.
One more for good measure. By the way, Brett Bielema will probably find work again before long.
Yeah, it was certainly not a November to remember.
Vandy 42, Tennessee 24. 4 touchdown passes for Kyle Shermer. And I guess the big story here would be that Tennessee is still looking for a head football coach. It does appear as if the John Gruden rumors have officially been squelched. He will not
I would
be
assume so.
The next football coach in Knoxville.
Did you see and hey, good for Vandy for getting their first SEC win, dominantly almost. Did you see what the game was nicknamed by? I forget if it was a Vandy or Tennessee writer. This is certainly not my term.
It did not.
Somebody early on in this game called this rivalry Badlam, which I appreciate. Good job by you, creative college football minds.
Over in the ACC, we had a 10-0 whitewash. Virginia Tech over Virginia.
Yeah. And you made a certain promise about this game and the outcome thereof.
I made the comment on our last show that I would dress up as a pilgrim if Virginia Tech won this game.
Mm-hmm. What happened exactly?
I had every intention of editing that out. I'm not kidding.
Oh.
True story. Every intention of editing that one out. Because as you know, on our Wednesday show, we were both tired. We made a few goofs. More than
usual. You drinking some
usual.
Welch's grape juice? You pitching for the Dodgers, Tim Welcher?
I'm going to honor it. I will wear the pilgrim outfit.
Okay, good. Making sure.
I'm not going to do it at the live show. That I will not do. I'm not doing it at the live show, no.
What about one of those buckle hats?
We'll talk. We'll talk about it offline.
This is a negotiation, officially.
But I will honor it. I promise.
Hey, Virginia Tech has won this game for 47 straight years now.
And they finished 9-3. Good year.
Yeah, all things considered, poor performances against the better teams on their schedule for the most part, but defensively, pretty much a top 5 to 7 defense in the country. Tremaine Edmonds is just a monster all over the field. Really, really strong defensively.
Florida State 38, Florida 22. Do you watch this game at all?
Unfortunately, I did see a little bit of this game because I was watching with our pals Ryan and Richard, who both are borderline proud alumni.
Will they be trotting out the Florida 4-7 the way they did Notre Dame 4-8? Just need to ask
I don't think they will. You might want to ask them at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, Ty. Which is, I think, 2 weeks from this past Friday.
This is true, yeah.
And you know what people can do? If you go to the Solid Verbal feed, twitter.com/solidverbal, there's a link right there. Vote for the Heisman Trophy candidate and winner of your choosing. I would suggest you do that right now. Twitter.com/solidverbal. Find the Heisman Trophy link. Go vote. Your voice matters.
I'm tweeting out now, don't let Notre Dame's 9-3 season distract you from the fact that Florida finished 4-7. We'll see how that goes by the time the show concludes. Tweet sent. Okay. Louisville 44, Kentucky 17. This was a chippy game, Dan.
It was a little chippy.
A little chippy here, huh? Lamar Jackson getting in the middle of a skirmish.
Yeah.
372 total yards for him, as is typically the case. But, yeah, Lamar showing a little chippiness.
Yeah, with that defense, with Louisville's defense this year, the Cardinals going 9-4 after a bowl game, not the worst. It is just a shame that Lamar Jackson, who had arguably, in terms of how efficient he was and accurate he was, a better year than his Heisman year, is not receiving, I don't know about the recognition, but just the attention and the TV games that should have come with a better year for Louisville. It's a shame.
8-4 for the Louisville Cardinals. Kentucky at 7-5. Okay, NC State 33. North Carolina 21. A big day for Nyheim Hines. As NC State moves to 8-4, the nightmare is finally over for North Carolina. They finished their year 3-9.
Oof. Get healthy.
Duke 31, Wake 24. The quarterback duel that everyone was waiting for goes to Daniel Jones. He outdid John Wolford and the Wolford Wagon. Got a nice win on the road. They get bowl eligible at 6-6. Wake was already there. They finished 7-5. They were playing to try and get an 8th win, but was not in the cards. Both of these teams in the ACC are going to be in bowl games.
Yeah, kind of an ugly back and forth at times, 5 combined picks, but yeah, good for Daniel Jones, who had a very nice day otherwise, and certainly outdueled John Wolford. We still believe and have tickets to ride the Wolford Wagon.
Boston College 42, Syracuse 14. Another
BC.
Big day for A.J. Dillon. I feel like every week he's got 193 yards and 3 touchdowns. Good year. Good conclusion to the year for Boston College. They finished with 7 wins.
Yeah, 500 in conference. Good for them.
Over in the Big Ten, Penn State 66, Maryland 3.
Man, can we just get like 3 straight years of Maryland having their starting quarterback or even a backup quarterback? What a brutal year for the Terps.
Michigan State 40, Rutgers 7. Michigan State, a nice answer to their 3-9 year from a year ago as they finished 9-3.
Did you see the time of possession, Ty, in this game?
Oh, man. Incredible, right?
48-12. Oh, what are you doing? Good for Michigan State. I mean, you were saying.
Yeah, 9-3 for the Spartans after a disaster last season.
Hey, good for Sparty. You proved Ty wrong. And you know what? Proving either one of us wrong is very simple.
And by the way, Rutgers had 4 wins.
4 wins, yeah.
Hey, got to start somewhere.
They were on a Big Ten winning streak, Ty.
Northwestern 42, Illinois 7. Northwestern quietly finishes with a 9-3 record. Illinois, another abysmal 2-10 year.
Yeah, and things had to be completely overhauled, not to explain away the Lovie Smith era and the disaster that has been Illinois football these past couple of years. But if we are to believe that the complete, roster had to be overhauled and dealt with, and they're playing so many young players, then I think it would be fair to expect 4, 5, 6 wins next year, right? For Illinois?
Yeah.
I think so. And Northwestern, you're just like, well, it's the March to 9. The March to 9 begins, on August 30th. That's just how we deal with the Wildcats now. But another really nice year after a slow start for the Wildcats. Clayton Thorson, Justin Jackson had another nice day. So, hey, good for Northwestern.
And Iowa, 56, Nebraska 14. 3 more picks for Tanner Lee, just for good measure, to close out Nebraska's bad season. Didn't go according to the plan. They did make it official that they are moving on from Mike Riley. We've got rumors running amok out there. Everywhere from Matt Campbell to Scott Frost to Justin Fuente were the names that I saw.
Yeah, I would say probably Matt Campbell if they're able to secure. I think it's a pretty hefty buyout at Iowa State, but I think that would be a very good hire. I tweeted something out about Nebraska that I feel very passionately about. We mentioned, I think, last week on the show. Can we just stop lecturing Nebraska fans about them not being like a college football superpower? Everybody knows we're good. They just want a fun, competitive team, just like you want Brandon Wimbush to just complete a couple more passes. I want Oregon to recruit a backup quarterback, stuff like that, just basic stuff. And Nebraska fans, I think, for the most part, you're certainly going to have your outliers. They're on board.
I would say they're on board, and I would also say that the fan base is actually quite reasonable.
As the season goes on, reality does play a big role in reason.
I remember my early projection that Nebraska was going to have a bad year was met with a little bit of resistance. Yeah. But Nebraska fans, you're right. They tend to get realistic in a hurry.
Yeah,
so I appreciate their support, and I hope they're able to find a coach that can turn that program around, because it is a great historic blue blood program.
It is. They do have a lot to be proud of.
Moving on, we've got Purdue 31 Indiana 24, the old Oaken bucket goes to Jeff Brom in his first year. Richard Lego threw 60 times for Indiana, Dan. But Markel Jones rushed for 217 for the Boilermakers. And Purdue going to a bowl game.
Can't stress enough, one, how impressive it is that Purdue's going to a bowl game. Two, how good of a job Jeff Brom and that staff. Yes, even and perhaps particularly Nick Holt, the defensive coordinator. Purdue has arguably top 20, top 25 defense this year, which has been the difference as they've dealt with injuries on offense. And Jeff Brom probably won't get more coaching attention this cycle, but if they keep trending in this direction, you can probably guarantee yourself that Jeff Brom is going to be getting a bigger job.
Absolutely. And then over in the Big 12, we had K-State 20, Iowa State 19. Great
with
end.
No time.
Great end to Farmageddon, the third string quarterback bowl, whatever you want to call it. Freshman Skylar Thompson scrambles. He hits Isaiah Zuber on the last play of the game to give K-State a thrilling come-from-behind win here. Both teams finish up at 7-5.
Yes. And, I mean, the Iowa State story didn't conclude how you probably would have wanted it to be if you're a Cyclone fan, but still, huge step forward for Matt Campbell and the Clones.
All right, Oklahoma State wins big over Kansas. And the only other action in the Big 12 was at Texas Tech.
Oh,
big road win, 27-23 on the road in Austin. They knock off the Longhorns. Nick Shimonek comes in relief, throws 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Texas goes down stunned at home, and apparently enough to save Cliff Kingsbury's job.
Texas was spotted 3 quarters of not super good quarterback play from McLean Carter, the backup, who I don't think is better than the starter. I don't think he is. And Sam Ehlinger just threw a couple ducks there at the end. Not like that, Texas. Especially, I don't want to say they wasted, but Texas's defense was really good this year.
Yeah.
And offensively, I saw this. We mentioned the BMS stuff with Ohio State, the Beck-Meyer syndrome and running a quarterback too much. But yet another game, double-digit carries for the quarterback and not trusting a pretty good couple running backs for Texas. And Texas finishes the year something like 1 of 5 or something like that in the Big 12, or maybe overall 1 of 6, 2 of 6, 2 and 6, excuse me, when the quarterback ends up with double-digit carries. Just, I don't think it's an ideal way to live offensively.
Quickly over to the Pac-12. UCLA 30, Cal 27. We had Arizona State 42, Arizona 30. This is actually a pretty good game.
Real good. Brandon Dawkins came in for Arizona. Arizona State wins. N'Keal Harry had a nice game. DeMario Richard, just not enough to save Todd Graham's job.
Oregon 69, Oregon State 10.
Yep.
Oregon could have scored 100 if they wanted here.
They most certainly could have. They barely played Justin Herbert in the second half. They had a 35-point second quarter. Oregon felt, and I think it's all silly, but sort of disrespected by trash talk early in the week from a very, very bad team, which when a very bad team trash talks you, just say, all right, cool, fun. But a really nice way for Royce Freeman to perhaps end out his career. Who knows if he'll play in a bowl game, but he finishes with a number of records, so good for him. And it just leaves everybody, basically, Oregon fan and not, what Oregon could have been with a healthy Justin Herbert. Certainly it seems that maybe they could have beaten Washington State and UCLA with how those teams looked at various times this year and finished 9-3. But I think it's exciting times ahead with Oregon and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and by the way, there were rumors that Bo Baldwin, currently the offensive coordinator at Cal, formerly the very successful coach of Eastern Washington, that he might be the next football coach at Oregon State. Those rumors have been a bit diffused, let's say, by the Oregon State brass. We will wait to see which direction they end up going, but he's a name out there and would be an interesting hire.
Yeah, would be interesting. We'll see what happens.
And finally, Utah 34, Colorado 13. Utah does get to 6-6. They'll be in a bowl. Colorado just misses. They're at 5-7.
Yes, sir.
We have one other game to discuss here, Dan.
Well, I think we have more, but okay. Give me the one that's a glimmer in your eye.
A back-and-forth game. Maybe the best of the weekend. Called by our good friend Adam Amin. He wore his green solid verbal shirt.
Yes, he
on
did.
TV, a pre-recorded food segment, getting a little national exposure for the green shirt. A great game. They call it the War on I-4, and it was a war. UCF beats USF by a 49-42 score. An incredible season for Scott Frost and UCF. 2 years removed after going 0-12, right?
Yep.
Great game, top to bottom. Also for Quentin Flowers, who had 605 total yards in a losing effort. UCF now gets Memphis next week in the American Championship game.
Seeing Quentin Flowers on the sideline after willing this team to 42 points almost single-handedly after they give up the kick return for a touchdown. Just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Yeah, unbelievable performance from Quentin Flowers and a great year for USF, losing a head coach, putting in a new system-ish on offense, improving drastically on defense, and finishing 9-2. They will go to a pretty good bowl game, hopefully.
All right. And some other championship games of note. Next week, we've got North Texas against Lane Kiffin and Florida Atlantic for the Conference USA title. We've got Akron and Toledo for the MAC. And we've got Boise against Fresno. 2 weeks in a row now for the Mountain West Championship.
Good for Jason Candle and Toledo. Logan Woodside, another strong game for the Rockets, going back to the MAC championship game. Northern Illinois, a nice season, but can't just win with defense. Houston, a nice win over Navy. The post-naval trip was real for everybody. So Navy goes down at Houston, and Houston, I'd say a disappointing 7-4, all things considered, with where they were and what they expected out of Kyle Allen. Otherwise, the Memphis game.
Yeah, right.
ECU's not that good, but Memphis UCF next week. Ty, that's good football, Ty. That's just nothing but good football. Two really good quarterbacks in Riley Ferguson and Mackenzie Milton. Big offenses. I'm excited for that game. That's my TV show of the week.
Okay.
I just want to watch.
I want to close out with this, Dan.
Please.
Charles Chip Kelly, formerly head football coach at Oregon, took Oregon to new heights. Now he's going to be coaching farther south on the West Coast at UCLA, as we talked about earlier in the show, a couple times throughout the course of the show. As an Oregon fan, as an Oregon alum, does it sting to have him coaching elsewhere?
A little bit, just because he is the best coach that Oregon has ever had, and now he is back in the conference. I think it's sort of Spurrier-ish, where Spurrier is that legend in Gainesville, then going back to South Carolina is just strange. It's not the same division, at least, but UCLA will be at Oregon early November, and he will be on the sideline wearing blue and gold. That's strange. I don't know if it stings, because Oregon fans are always sort of chasing that high of 2007 to 2012, but I like to think that as a semi-grown-up Ty, I have moved on and accepted that change happens, and I will be not rooting for UCLA, but I will be enthusiastic about seeing what happens with the Bruins, because the Pac-12 not being in the playoff, the Pac-12 not having game day, the Pac-12 not in prime time. I'm a fan of the conference, and I hope with a higher coaching level and more interesting teams that we get more good games, because I think the Pac-12 being relatively down this year hurt college football as a whole.
I would agree. Let's leave it there, Dan. Great season. College football is still ongoing. We've got conference championship games next week that we're clearly going to discuss and preview on our Wednesday show. In the meantime, don't forget to give us a holler out on Facebook, out on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're also on Reddit. A subreddit by Verballers for Verballers is created out there at reddit.com/r/solidverbal. Get in touch. I want to try and stop by and answer some questions in the next couple days and weeks.
Sure.
And we've also got news coming about our live show.
Yes.
Hopefully in the next couple days when we're down in Atlanta.
Ty, can I give out some dudes?
Heaven strike me down for almost forgetting that.
It's a world of dudes, Ty, so it's hard, when your whole world is dudes in rivalry week. Obviously, it starts and kind of ends, but it starts with Quentin Flowers, USF quarterback. Kenny Pickett, Pitt, put Pitt in. Quarterback, third string. Against number 2 team in the country, Vita Vea, defensive tackle for Washington, Jarrett Stidham, of course, of Auburn, quarterback, Greedy Williams from LSU, Ralph Webb, record-setting running back for Vanderbilt, Matt Boson, we mentioned, TCU defensive end, Kerryon Johnson, goes without saying, Auburn running back, Roquan Smith for Georgia, helped shut down Georgia Tech, Naeem Hines for North Carolina State, a huge day, Royce Freeman, record-setting career, Tremaine Edmonds for Virginia Tech, N'Keal Harry, wish a lot more people saw N'Keal Harry play, he's a great receiver for ASU, A.J. Brown, just a ridiculous, maybe the best pure receiver in the country, Ole Miss. Bob Rondo, I hope that's how you pronounce it, the Washington play-by-play announcer, retired, and we like a good play-by-play announcer. Donovan Peoples-Jones with big special teams play for Michigan. Dwayne Haskins stepping in for Ohio State. Markel Jones for Purdue, the running back, and my personal favorite of the week, Bryce Love's high ankle. That is a dude to me.
Very good.
That's what I got.
All right, Dan. Fun show.
Yes.
Let's leave it at that. We'll be back on Wednesday, talk a lot more college football. In the meantime, for that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, thanks for bearing with us on a longer than usual Hate Rivalry Week show. We'll catch you on Wednesday. Stay solid.